When I opened my garage that morning, Karen screamed, "That's my car," at the top of her lungs. 2 cops were already pulling up before I even had time to breathe, and all it took to end her little performance was a 17-digit VIN number. I'm not kidding this woman. The president of my HOA tried to steal my car. Not metaphorically, not legally. She literally tried to rewrite ownership with a clipboard, a flyer, and a fake bill of sale. I moved into this neighborhood thinking I'd found peace. Clean lawns, quiet mornings, families waving as they jog past. The HOA brochure promised community harmony. I thought that meant things like mowing schedules and maybe a yearly barbecue. Turns out it meant Karen. 50-something bob haircut cardigan that screamed authority and a clipboard that she treated like the Constitution. At first it was harmless emails about new parking policies, community reminders about decals and guest permits. I parked in my own driveway, my own property. Still a bright yellow paper appeared on my windshield. Non-compliant vehicle subject to fine. I laughed it off. The next week another one showed up. Then came a $50 fine, then $100. Same note, different threat. I started keeping a record: photos, timestamps, letters, everything. I wasn't looking for a fight. I just wanted peace of mind. The HOA's logic was nonsense, but I thought, okay, maybe if I just comply, they'll stop. I filled out the form, requested a decal, paid the silly little fee, and yet somehow the warnings didn't stop. Then one morning I stepped outside and froze. My car was gone. Just gone. No broken glass, no sign of a break-in. Just a dark oil spot where it used to be. I remember standing there, keys in hand, staring at that spot like maybe the car would just reappear if I blinked hard enough. I called the HOA hotline. No answer. I emailed Karen directly. No reply. Finally, one of my neighbors muttered, "I think I saw a tow truck last night, right around 2 in the morning. A tow truck. I tracked it down to a local yard. The clerk didn't even blink when I gave my plate number. He just slid a form across the counter. Storage fee, $275. Cash or card? It felt surreal, like I'd fallen into some bureaucratic twilight zone. I paid, got my car back, and drove home fuming. But with the receipt in my folder and the car back in my driveway, I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. The worst hadn't even started. A few days later, HOA chatter started circulating emails about abandoned vehicles, community auctions, asset recovery. Then someone forwarded me the new HOA newsletter. My stomach dropped. There it was, a full-color flyer with a photo of my car, same make, same model, even the small scratch above the taillight. Community auction, abandoned vehicle sale as is. I stared at it for a long time, then burst out laughing. It wasn't a mistake. It was a setup. Karen was building a narrative my car supposedly abandoned, now legally purchased through an HOA auction. The timing matched perfectly, the tow, the silence, the new program. I could almost hear her voice in those pompous HOA meetings, spinning her little tale about neighborhood order. I gathered my paperwork again, title, registration, tow receipt. I even installed a dash cam aimed at the street. This time I wasn't going to be blindsided. I emailed the city, filed a formal complaint with DMV compliance, and started keeping my garage door closed. But power trips don't stop when you ignore them. They escalate. A few days later, I caught Karen strolling past my house with 2 board members pointing at driveways like she was leading a tour of her personal kingdom. She stopped in front of mine, smiled that smug HOA smile, and wrote something in her clipboard. That evening, an envelope appeared in my mailbox. Notice of HOA asset recovery. It was laughable, filled with words like failure to cooperate and community interest. But underneath all the legal jargon, it said one thing: they were preparing to take my car again. That night I sat on my couch, folder open on the table, staring at the mountain of proof I'd collected. And for a moment, I felt completely defeated. I actually wondered if I was the problem. Maybe I'd misread something. Maybe I was overreacting. It's crazy how self-doubt creeps in when you're up against a system that insists it's right. But then I remembered that feeling at the tow yard, the indifference, the routine way they took my money for something they had no right to do. I remembered how Karen looked at me in those HOA meetings like I was some kid who needed to learn a lesson. No, I wasn't crazy. They were. So I prepared. I charged my cameras, labeled my folders, highlighted every single VIN reference, every timestamp. I wasn't just ready to argue, I was ready to prove. And then, the universe handed me the perfect moment. Sunday morning. I was half awake dragging a box to the garage when I lifted the door halfway up, and there she was. Karen walking her usual patrol loop, phone in one hand, clipboard in the other. Her eyes locked on my car. Her whole body froze. Then she started yelling, "That's my car. You stole my vehicle. I have the bill of sale right here." Her voice carried down the street. Windows opened. Neighbors stepped outside holding phones, whispering. Another board member jogged over, nodding like this was some rehearsed play. Karen waved a piece of paper in the air. "I'm calling the police." I closed the garage door halfway, took a deep breath, grabbed my folder, and stepped outside. If she wanted a show, she'd get one, but not the kind she expected. 5 minutes later, a patrol car rolled up, lights off, but presence heavy. 2 officers stepped out. Calm, professional. Karen rushed toward them first, already mid-rant. "Officers, this man stole a vehicle that was legally purchased in an HOA auction. Here's the paperwork." She shoved her bill of sale at them like it was a royal decree. The officers nodded politely, then turned to me. "Sir, your side." I handed over the folder. "Here's the title, registration, tow release, time-stamped photos, and security footage. Oh, and the VIN's visible through the windshield if you'd like to verify it." One of them raised an eyebrow. "Let's do that." I hit the remote. The garage lifted all the way up. The car gleamed under the morning light, spotless and very, very mine. The officer leaned in, read the VIN aloud, then compared it to the paperwork I'd handed him. Perfect match. Then he looked at Karen's bill of sale and frowned. The VIN wasn't even close. Not off by 1 digit, completely different. Karen's face changed from fury to confusion to panic in about 3 seconds flat. "That can't be right. It's the same car. The same." "Ma'am," the officer interrupted, "same model doesn't mean same vehicle. You bought something, but not this." The second officer was already on the phone with the tow yard, confirming the report number from my paperwork. After a long pause, he said into the radio, "They're saying the auction never finalized. Vehicle still under hold. No title transfer filed." Karen's voice got smaller, but the HOA approved the sale. "Community rules," the officer said dryly, "aren't state law." She blinked like she'd just realized her clipboard wasn't a badge. The officers took photos of the documents, logged the mismatch, and wrote up a report for potential false claims. One of them turned to me and said quietly, "You did the right thing documenting all this. Keep the car secure while the city follows up." Karen stood there speechless as the officers walked back to their cruiser. Neighbors began drifting away, their curious faces now laced with guilt and embarrassment. The show was over. I hit the remote again. The garage door closed with a satisfying hum. For the first time in months, I felt calm. Not triumphant, not smug, just calm. What happened after was slower, quieter, but just as powerful. The city opened an inquiry into unauthorized towing. DMV compliance requested records from the tow yard. The HOA removed their auction flyer from the clubhouse board, replacing it with a bland notice about parking policies under review. Then, one by one, neighbors started coming forward. Screenshots, emails, letters, same tone, same threats, same pressure tactics. Karen hadn't just targeted me, she'd been running a system. Within a month, the towing company reimbursed my fees as a courtesy. The HOA canceled the parking program altogether, claiming administrative reevaluation. 2 board members resigned. Karen unsurprisingly stepped down to focus on personal matters. Her power vanished as fast as my car had that first night. Now my driveway is quiet again. The garage door opens when I choose, and the car stays exactly where it belongs. Inside, there's a folder thick with copies, timestamps, and proof. I keep it close, not out of paranoia, but as a reminder. Because the thing about people like Karen is they count on you being too tired to fight. They count on you giving up when it's unfair. They think the loudest voice wins, but it doesn't. Facts do. So here's what I learned when someone tries to rewrite reality right in front of your house. You don't have to shout louder. Just gather your proof, open the door, and let the numbers speak.